Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago Tour News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Prime Minister says local government election result presents an opportunity for citizens to experience the power of proportional representation. The Minister of Transport expresses his frustration with the lack of quick, cost-efficient transport between Caribbean nations and preserving this country's most important historical moments. Thank you for joining us. With the season of Diwali in the air, the Honorable Prime Minister welcomed guests to rein in the Hindu festival in good spirits.
The celebration of the festival of Diwali, like the many other great religious festivals, traditions and occasions, we are so fortunate to share with each other in TNT. They offer us an opportunity for self-reflection and personal renewal.
Prime Minister the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisasa SC hosted her 4th annual Diwali dinner and celebrations 2013 at the Diplomatic Centre St. Anne's on Thursday evening. The main hall was transformed into a true representation of the Hindu culture, with music, images and delicacies to enhance the experience. There was live entertainment from various artists as the guests, clad in their Indian wear, listened on. The Honourable Minister of Works and Infrastructure extended Diwali greetings to those in attendance and the nation by extension and called for greater unity.
This is a festival which has transcended the boundaries of religion and has now become truly national. And the importance of this festival of Diwali can be measured to the extent to which it has contributed not only to the growth and practice of Hinduism in our society, and as well East Indian cultural traditions, but in a real way, Diwali has contributed to building the unity of the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. Diwali has contributed to cultural persistence, to the spirit of multiculturalism, and to cross-cultural understanding. So powerful is its message. A message that is universal, the triumph of good over evil, of darkness over light, of intelligence over ignorance, of humility over arrogance.
The Honourable Prime Minister also called for unity among citizens of Trinidad and Tobago as part of her Diwali message.
As a country, there's much that we have achieved, but there's still also much to do and to be done. To continue to thrive and prosper as a nation, to receive the fruits we ask of Lakshmi Devi at this time of Diwali, we must be able to work together for the common good. Very often we get caught up in the illusion of the superhero, of one person, one entity being able to achieve it all. But my friends, that is not the reality. One person, one community, one organization, government on its own can never solve the challenges we face daily. But as a united force, it is very clear we can overcome anything.
Also extending greetings at the Diwali dinner with the National Council of Indian Culture of Trinidad and Tobago, the Society working for the Advancement of Hindu Aspirations SWAHA, and the Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha. In Trinidad and Tobago, Diwali 2013 will be observed on Saturday, November 2nd. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Prasad Bisasa says the local government election result in the Chaguanas Borough Corporation presents an opportunity for us citizens to experience the power of proportional representation. In a statement issued, the Prime Minister says delivery of proportional representation reforms aim to ensure the democratic process by increasing the value of each vote.
Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisasa says proportional representation found in the reform of the municipal corporation has the opportunity to shine through the outcome of election results in the Chaguanas Borough. In a release, the Prime Minister says, quote, now is the chance for the full positive impact of proportional representation to be felt by the citizens, end quote. She was referring to the 444 polling results for the corporation, yet to be confirmed by the Elections and Boundaries Commission. According to Prime Minister Prasad Bisasa, quote, government's delivery of proportional representation reforms was intended to strengthen the democratic process by increasing the value of each vote. This means that we now have an opportunity to ensure elected officials work together without citizens being concerned that their interests are being brokered and a horse traded purely for power, end quote. Prime Minister Prasad Bisesa says, quote, on Monday evening when I spoke with the nation, I was clear that reforms will now compel all councillors and all aldermen to work together to ensure that every discussion, decision and project must be hinged purely on the needs of the people, end quote. She says this is what ensures citizens receive the services and benefits they deserve and represent true democracy. Kimberly Calawan, News 4.
When we come back, the Minister of Transport expresses his frustration with the lack of quick, cost-efficient transport within the Caribbean. Stay with us. The possibility of LNG-fueled ferries to facilitate inter-island transport in the Caribbean is being explored by the Ministry of Transport. This is the decision taken by the Minister of Transport, the Honourable Stephen Cadiz, as he expresses his frustration with the lack of quick, cost-efficient transport between Caribbean nations.
Minister Cadiz reveals his disappointment with current regional transport links as he addresses his first special committee meeting on transport at the Association of Caribbean States. The Minister of Transport laments the price of air transportation between Caribbean nations. Minister Cadiz says the Caribbean stands in stark contrast to Europe, where connectivity between nations is quick, easy and reliable, a fact he says is worrisome.
I look at my Caribbean region, and it gets very worrisome that we have not been able to achieve the kind of connectivity that we would want. The cost of an airline ticket going from Port of Spain, Trinidad into Bridgetown, Barbados is upwards of $2,300 TT, which is about $350 to fly from here to Barbados, which is 200 miles away. The connectivity between Trinidad and Tobago, for instance, and Grenada is practically non-existent. There's one flight a day or two flights a day. The sea connectivity, the sea linkages, again, not very efficient and not very cost efficient either.
Minister Cadiz says these regional transportation issues are hampering the development of the region.
The development of the air and sea connectivity, of course, to an island chain or countries like the Caribbean, where in some cases we are literally just miles apart, where we can see each other, and yet still we are all sovereign states, and yet still the connectivity between these states, it's extremely difficult, extremely expensive, and of course, what does that do? It hampers the real growth and the real opportunities that one would expect.
He explains the much talked about regional ferry service seems to be the most feasible option. However, a few adjustments need to be made to the idea.
One of the things that we're looking at, of course, is Trinidad is blessed, as we know, with natural gas. And of course, we have our own LNG facility here. And there are now ferries, fast ferries, large ferries, for doing both passenger and freight transport that are being fueled. These engines are being fueled by LNG, which of course brings the cost down, the operating cost down to a place where it will be manageable. So what we're looking at is the possibility of changing out the existing ferries that we have, which is basically goes between Trinidad and Tobago. Ferries similar to that. These are fast ferries that would be able to go from Port of Spain to St. George's in Grenada in the space of about 2 hours, which would be acceptable, at a cost which would be acceptable, rather than an overnight sail on a much smaller vessel or an aircraft link which is not very reliable. So these are things that we are in fact looking at now.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
The recent reintroduction of state financial lending institutions such as Exim Bank and Export TT can be attributed to boosting this country's competitiveness. This is according to Trade Minister and Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Vasant Bharath. He made the comments during the TT Manufacturers Association TTMA 2013 President's Dinner at Hilton Trinidad, Port of Spain.
Broadening the export base while providing lending opportunities to local manufacturers has the potential to increase Trinidad and Tobago's global competitiveness. Trade and Industry Minister Vasant Bharath, speaking at the TTMA's President and Awards function, says recent bilateral agreements signed with Central American states are expected to benefit the wider population through lowered prices. Minister Bharath adds while these relations increase economic competitiveness, it also opens the door to further large multinational corporations wishing to do business with the Caribbean Latin American region.
And it's the reason why over the last year or so we've been involved in forming partnerships with many of our Central American colleagues. Guatemala, for example, Panama. We have El Salvador coming up this year, really simply to broaden the base, to allow our manufacturers to be able to develop the economies of scale that they require to reduce their unit costs and to be more competitive, not just on export markets, but also to be more competitive when they face global competition coming into Trinidad and Tobago.
Representatives of the banking sector attribute the growth of the economy in recent years to the manufacturing sector.
For Trinidad and Tobago, our manufacturing sector is an important national driver of sustained long-term revenue growth. The sector has steadily increased its contribution to our gross national domestic production from 2008, when the sector contributed 4%, to 2012, when the contribution was almost 9%. After 2 years of contraction, ending with 0.4% decline in 2012, the manufacturing sector is poised to register strong growth of 6.1% in 2013. Accordingly, manufacturing's share of real GDP is forecasted to rise to 9.2% in 2013, up from 8.8% in 2012.
Minister Bharath says the reviving of a number of government lending institutions, such as Exim Bank, has seen the support local manufacturers have been calling for years now.
Working together with the Manufacturers Association, what we've done in the last 12 months is to look at reshaping a number of the agencies that interact with manufacturers. Export TT, for example, was previously the Small Business Development Company. It had lost its way completely in terms of what the provision of its services and what it was supposed to have been doing. We've now refocused that company and we've renamed it also to be Export TT, and the aim of that organization now is to assist manufacturers in becoming export competitive and being able to compete internationally.
This year's dinner saw President of the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters, Dr. Jason Myers, as its feature speaker. He underscored the importance of expanding markets for manufacturers and how they can benefit from such relations. He says local manufacturers can pull a page from Canada's story.
Between 1990 and 2002, manufacturing more than doubled in size in Canada. It couldn't have done that without free trade with the United States. And the reason was because, as I think all of our speakers spoke to tonight, you need a large market if you're going to be more specialized. You need a large market if you're going to succeed and take advantage of opportunities, and you need a large market if you're going to achieve the economies of scale that are going to make you competitive.
This year's conference was themed The Role of Manufacturing in National Development. Kimberly Calawan, News 4.
Sport is up after the break. Stay with us. Quadruple Youth Para-Pan American gold medalist Chantal Ince is set to be awarded for her effort in the pool. At the reception for the 18-year-old swimmer, the Honorable Anil Roberts, Minister of Sport, had some welcoming news for Chantal and the Paralympic fraternity. We have more in this Wayne Cunningham report.
Chantal Ince,
competed in the 2013 Youth Parapan American Games in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and swam away with gold in the 400-meter freestyle, the 100-meter butterfly, the 100-meter freestyle, and the 100-meter backstroke. And according to the Honorable Annie Roberts, Minister of Sport, this achievement and her times in the pool deserve further recognition.
Junior athletes do not get monetary rewards and so on, but the times that Chantal has done and a world ranking has been put into the paperwork, and there's a committee at the Ministry and the Sport Company which will go through it and see what level on the elite funding she reached. So she will receive elite funding. At what level she will announce, we will announce later when they finish their deliberations. But with regards to financial rewards and so on, junior athletes do not get that. We encourage them to continue moving on to the senior. As you know, for the first time in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, 2 coaches have received monetary rewards for their performances, for their coaching. That was Mastrappa with Keshawn Walcott and Dr. Hippolyte to get his $250,000 soon, and when the president is ready to give them their national awards.
The winning of 4 gold medals was not an expectation, according to Chantal, but she expected success because of a well-planned process.
Exciting to just see that all my work and dedication, my parents put in, my coach put in, and even my friends and family that were there throughout the years, actually see the reward of that. It was really amazing. Just going through the process and really achieving it, it wasn't something I expected, but something that I really wanted more than expected.
From the 4 gold medal races, the swimmer did have a favorite.
I was really happy with my 100-meter butterfly. That race was really, well, my favorite going into the meet and stuff, and Coach Franz and I, we worked on fly particularly in most training sessions. So really going out there and feeling comfortable and winning gold and getting a really good time in 100-meter fly, it was nice.
Chantal attributed 2 main factors to her success.
My parents and church in getting me involved in finding who I am through Jesus, and having that relationship with him. It really caused me to just rise above, and even though hardships did come and people would come and say, no, you can't do this and you can't do that because look at your leg. It wasn't like that with them. They saw me as normal, and they taught me to accept myself for who God created me to be. And in so doing, I just continued and kept focused on what I had to do.
A certain George Bovell III also played a role.
George has inspired me a lot. We see George swimming over the years, and you actually see his dedication and his love and passion for the sport, and not really being limited towards just this country alone, and really wanting to represent Trinidad on a greater stage. In seeing him do that, it has been an inspiration to me to really get to that level and really carry the sport of swimming also to that level. So yes, he has inspired me a lot.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
When we come back, preserving this country's historical moments. Stay with us. Are you familiar with the terms eumatic and betel? Well, they are materials used to capture some of this country's most important historical moments dating back to the 1960s. However, as time passes, we run the risk of losing these materials from age. Preserving this part of history has become part of GISL's mandate, and creating awareness of its importance was the center of this cocktail event.
The race against time to preserve part of Trinidad and Tobago's heritage is on here at Government Information Services Limited, GISL. Home to some of this country's richest archive footage dating back to 1962, GISL has become the purveyor of these materials. But a challenge exists in extracting these treasured moments of TNT's history into safer, longer-lasting format remains, as they currently exist in outdated formats such as U-matic and Beta. In commemoration of saving this part of our history, GISL held its World Audiovisual Heritage 2013 cocktail event as part of its aim to sensitize the public. CEO of GISL, Andy Johnson, explained the company's goals in doing so through its latest digitization project and launch of its new website titled Hidden Treasures, which provides access to these materials online.
The decision was taken to develop a special website as a space for engaging persons with the requisite knowledge to input data on the forms provided with each screenshot. A team was appointed and the construction of the website was collaboratively pursued. Another phase of the project was to digitize the footage identified for the pilot phase. Officially, this phase began towards the end of July when the French service provider of the digitization solution sent a member of its installation team to us for 5 working days. And this visit was to install the equipment bought by GISL to clean, prepare, and migrate the contents recorded on the U-matic tape formats. Persons from both GISL and the UWI benefited from the training provided. This digitization process has continued, and to date, the targeted number of tapes has been digested.
Archive materials dating back to pre-independence days, including old-time Kaiso, royal visits and speeches, all make up the puzzle depicting our culture, history and heritage, now all being processed by GISL in its efforts to safeguard these treasures. Through the launch of the new website, Hidden Treasures, these materials now become available on the World Wide Web to anyone interested in Trinidad and Tobago's rich past. The aim of this occasion, commemorated every year on October 27th, was designated by the United Nations as a day aimed at highlighting the often unrecognized efforts by those who work tirelessly to save and preserve these materials. This year's theme centered around saving our heritage for the next generation.
UNESCO, in cooperation with the Coordinating Council of Audiovisual Archives Associations, CCAA, and other institutions, has helped to raise the profile of the issues at stake and focus global attention on the fragility of this heritage. Annually, archivists around the world join together on that day, the 27th of October, to celebrate audiovisual archives with activities that not only highlight the vulnerability of this heritage, but celebrate the often unheralded work of the heritage institutions that protect it.
Preserving these materials will mean informing generations to come of our history and culture.
As the world becomes more globalized, customers are becoming more sophisticated about how they access and interact with media. In many instances, they generate their own content when they use their electronic devices to record scenes and events which they unreservedly post on their social media sites. Although this level of independence is to be commended, we cannot negate our responsibility to keep our nationals rooted in who they are as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, to counter any external pressures that may impact their sense of identity, or should I say, our sense of identity.
World Day for Audiovisual Heritage is a commemoration of the adoption in 1980 by the 21st General Conference of the Recommendation for Safeguarding and Preservation of Moving Images. Kimberly Kalawan, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 Report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.